I'm Swasti, and I'll be explaining about the first point of language acquisition. But before that, I want to introduce what the definition of language acquisition is. Well, language acquisition is defined as the way to acquire, process, produce, and use certain words to communicate. The term language acquisition involves various language capacities, such as syntax, phonetics, and vocabularies. However, language acquisition does not happen directly as it gets to be. Here, there will be a text analysis in which it deals with language acquisitions. The text is entitled Acquisition. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. In the text mentioned, there has been provided several phenomena that happen to children in acquiring the language since they are baby. The first part of the text is about no language but a cry. In the text provided, it has been shown that the babies tend to cry at their first birth. Linguistic Society of America stated that babies will encounter three first stages of acquiring language. Babies utter no language, they speak no language, no words occur during the time they were born, yet they are crying. According to Phileson 2009, the baby will be crying after several seconds if they are not gathered immediately with their mother. In fact, there are several evidences explaining that babies crying because they got bruised, and also they feel sore because of the trauma of birth. Robert C. in 2013 added that the first cry of babies is considered as kickstarter for their lungs. The act of crying that occurs here plays a role as a sign to tell the doctor and the mother that the baby is alive. Then, after the newborn babies grow, for several first months, they will acquire new language. This language is not directly containing words, but in form of cooing. Cooing is defined as an activity of uttering speech noises, which is similar to the vowels that happens to newborn babies, in which it occurs when they feel there is something fun or even they feel satisfied towards something. After cooing, the next phase that happens to the babies is babbling. Babbling is an activity happen to the babies in which they combine the vowels and consonants in form of noise utterance. It usually occurs when babies are about 9 months old. Hence, Linguistic Society of America considered the act of crying, cooing, and babbling as three first stages of baby in acquiring language before they can produce any words.
Hello, I'm Oksa. Well, as what has been explained before, children will face several stages before they are able to speak out their first word. They will cry first, and they will start to coo and also babbling. Among these three stages, let's have a closer look at the cooing stage. In this cooing stage, it is explained that children are very dependent toward people around them, especially their parents and also caretaker. All of their developments, including their language development, are affected by the environment, especially their caretaker, who is the nearest person around them. After so many and very often interaction between the child and the caretaker, the child will begin to coo, which might be a symbolization of satisfaction toward the caretaker. When the child begins to coo, it is argued that the coo is influenced by the caretaker's behavior. On the other words, the caretaker reinforces the child to coo with certain behavior, and then the child tries to imitate it. To explain this phenomenon, Nobu Masataka conducted a research. He investigated 10 Japanese children and mothers, in which he found out that the sounds produced by the children are similar to their mothers. Thus, he concluded that the mothers and the children are mutually reinforce each other. The mother reinforced the child to coo by the contentment that she showed, which made the child imitate her. It is also possible that the child's coos reinforce the mother to have that contentment. This phenomenon studied by Masataka is actually the evidence of Skinner's behaviorist theory. So, what is behaviorist theory? Well, this theory proposed by Skinner explains that the language acquisition of a child is strongly influenced by the environment and also a human role model who provides reinforcement, stimuli, and also rewards for the child. According to the behaviorist theory, in acquiring the language, the child also tends to imitate or model the language of their closest people. So, basically, the phenomenon about the child and the caretaker before tells us about how the behaviorist theory happens on a child's language acquisition. It tells about how language is influenced by the human role model, in which the role model here is the caretaker. It also tells about how the language can be produced by the reinforcement of the caretaker. In this case, the contentment showed by the caretaker is the reinforcement. And the last, it tells about how the child imitates the language, in this case, the coo from the caretaker.
Hi, I'm Tria. I would like to explain about first word. After the children acquire language by crying, cooing, and babbling, the children will not always be in that stage. As they enter their new age, the first age of their life, the act of babbling will be unconsciously decreased. It is because from the act of babbling, they seem practicing several new imperfect vocabularies. Hence, by the age of 1, they encounter a language development. The language acquisition occurs when the babies are trying to pronounce several words correctly, such as kaka for milk, kitty for cat, dada for daddy, mama for mama or mommy. Those examples are uttered so because the babies tend to think that the words uttered are the familiar and can be easily manipulated by children. In this case, it reminds us about the cognitive theory proposed by Piaget, which is about children's language acquisition. The cognitive theory that occurs in children is the sensory-motor period, in which it occurs between the time when they were born until the age of 2. In the sensory-motor period, children's language is called egocentric. It is called egocentric because children's language is uttered based on what they like, prominent, and refers to everyday's object so they can understand and utter it in easy way of talking.
Hello, I'm Intan. I'd like to explain the next point, which is about the birth of grammar. As what we have learned in the beginning, the children's earliest form of grammar is formed through social interaction. It means that the child's earliest form of grammar depends on utterances that adults use in their conversation. There were many investigations related to child first language acquisition, in which they were focused on how children acquire grammar. Most investigations found that when children are already in the stage that they can make 2 words, they demonstrate a surprising grammatical ability in which they can arrange the word into a normal order of sentences that are often used by adults. In this case, they don't arrange the word randomly, but they can distinguish which words should be in the first or second position. The researchers also had a project to analyze a young chimpanzee who is taught a human sign language named Noam Chomsky. The researchers attempted to find the differences between a 2-year-old human child with Noam when they utter several words into sentences. The result revealed that the child sequences are to be more like sentences, while Noam's sequences are to be more like grocery lists. After seeing the data, researchers conclude that even at a very young age, before the child has any awareness of the difference between nouns and verbs, they don't combine words randomly. They realize that words should follow a systematic pattern of sequences. From those explanations, we can say that those are the evidence for innateness theory proposed by Noam Chomsky. This theory emphasizes that children have an innate ability for language acquisition which is biologically determined. It views that humans have already possessed a brain contains linguistic information naturally since they were born. Then, this natural ability to learn language is triggered by hearing speech from people around them. In short, this theory views that the children already possess principle or structure of a particular language naturally in their brain since they were born. And then by the time, the children will develop the language by hearing speech in the surrounding. Chomsky stated that the child can possess this innate ability to acquire language because of child language acquisition device or LAD. It is used as an instrument for working out the rules of language. Now, this term is replaced with UG or universal grammar. So, it can be seen that acquisition of human language doesn't only happen based on the external influences of a child's environment, but also the internal influences of a child's LAD. Chomsky argued that only humans who have this kind of genetically ability to learn language. Thus, we can know that the chimpanzee Nim will never be able to imitate exactly as the human language without the human DNA molecule.
Usage-based theory. According to Tomasello 2003, the usage-based theory of language states that children initially build up or develop their language by concrete construction, the grammatical, draw their own words or frames that they have heard and used. Construction usually become general and abstract during the 2 to 4 years in life, and this theory is closely allied with the cognitive linguistics and construction grammar of children. This usage-based theory is proved by the paper that given by lecturer in which it is discussed about the spoken of child. Children have their creativity in speaking to construct their words. Children can construct their language or grammar during 2 to 4 years in life. They produce all of expressions that they never or rarely heard around their environment. Yet, they attempt to construct or reconstruct their mother tongue, draw, create by their own. Children construct the grammaticals such as create a regular past tense and then ending for irregular verbs. Also, children recognize an irregular verb, which is they jettison the regular past tense and ending that they have acquired. It is called cognitive processing, in which children have progressed to show a slightly more advanced linguistic stage development. Children's very common overgeneralization in their mother tongue learning of young and maybe the mistaken referred to the false or analogies of the children. Yet, it is not the error of the children, but the language because it is already attached to their own grammatical patterning. So, this is a process of creative construction in which children active to construct their grammar according to what they have learned and what they can reasonable to assume. Here are examples of children's creativity on their own words. Children command to create their own words like this. They ending the regular past tense for irregular. For example, sing become singed, it should be sang. Go become god, it should be went. Eat become eated, it should be ate. And here provide conversation between daughter and her mother. Daughter said, somebody's at the door. Mother answered, there's nobody at the door. And doctor answer again, there's yes buddy at the door. Here, the word nobody should not answer by yes buddy, but it should be answered by somebody.
Well, that's all about our video. Thank you so much for watching and have a nice day.